I'd like to invite Helen and Lars back up. Just hopefully we've got about 10 minutes for some questions. If you don't mind kind of taking either side of the lectern, and I'll take the handheld mic. So if you don't mind, I'm going to kick off with the first question. And it's a two-part question, one part for each of you. The first part was for Lars, actually. It seems that PLP have really placed kind of research, cutting-edge research at the heart of your business model. And I wondered, whether you had a kind of sense of what proportion of a practice's turnover and sort of staff time, it's worth investing in research. And then I'll ask Helen the question, maybe you can maybe take the two together. And for Helen, the question was, do you see that kind of innovation has ever played a role in winning work? I mean, is innovation a kind of work-winning, innovative approaches, a kind of way for architects to win work? Lars, do you want to take it first?
All right. We're about 220 people, so we're a little bit smaller than Lars Morrison. But we have got enough resources. One of the nice things is we've got all our own model makers, rendering people, animators, people who do websites, all this kind of stuff. We do it all in-house. And that's the resource that I can call on. So when it comes to, again, programmers, all the rest of it, you always get slack periods. So those are the resources you can use if you can put ideas into their head. So my job is to, I'm a great reader of science fiction. And I think there's an opportunity to make some of the science fiction things come true. And so that's what I'm trying to do. We're not going to develop any of these things. We're looking for partners always to develop these various technologies. But it is a matter of making people think about what they actually want from the future. Because most of the time, people just repeat what they did last time. And that's my problem.
I think innovation is definitely a buzzword in terms of clients asking about it. And I think some firms are genuinely involved in it. Obviously, you guys are committed to a pretty out there research activity and are making a business of it. There are smaller and more incremental ways to innovate as well. And what we struggle to do is just talk about gradual improvement and more incremental improvement in the same phrase as innovation, but doing things better across a whole range of things, whether it's, improving the way you can get data from a 3D CAD model into a spreadsheet and do it more quickly and more accurately, to making your administrative systems work more effectively, to rendering more quickly. All the little bits and pieces of your business, as well as innovation in how you design and how you deliver buildings. We are probably plowing that field a little bit more, but clients are definitely interested in it, and I think there's a weight towards that more in business now than there was 10 years ago, for sure.
Are there any burning questions from the audience? Chantal will come around with a microphone.
Come on, there must be somebody challenging something I said.
Stony silence.
People always do.
Oh, we've got a question in the middle here.
It's a question for Lars. Is that okay? Is that working? Do you ever work closely with universities or academia?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. I have a relationship. I'm a visiting professor in Chalmers in Sweden. We talk a lot to people at AA, people at Bartlett, and so on. So yes, and anybody who wants to take up some of the ideas we're running with and write their PhD on it, we're willing to help them out and work with them. And yes, universities are obviously where most of these ideas will come. So I'm hoping that more and more universities will start to look at us. But it also includes, of course, international collaboration. I think a lot of these things that we're talking about, new technologies, will occur in the world where they are still building cities for 2 billion more people. Then not many of them are going to be retrofitted systems. Most of them are going to be new systems. So working with people all across, so we've had quite a few conversations with Japanese, we're starting up a Japanese business, lots of discussions with Japanese contractors, and the Japanese are really quite interesting. I mean, just like the Chinese, they know that innovation is the future. And it's interesting to look at something like the maglev train. The maglev train is being built in Japan and in China, whereas Europe has just dropped it, because Europe likes thinking backward and slowly.
Can I challenge Lars on that? I think there's a big innovation challenge in working in existing cities and making them work more efficiently. I mean, you had images of infrastructure going under the streets of London. I think if we don't solve the problems of existing cities, which by definition is more of an evolutionary process, just moving to a new site and building a new city, I shouldn't say just, that will solve some problems. But surely our existing cities need attention too, and maybe the interventions are not as dramatic, but equally important.
Well, on that subject, I have got a collaboration with the Swedish Research Institute where we're looking precisely at that. And one of the things we're looking at is, for instance, Stockholm. And Stockholm has got this enormously stupid problem in that it is constrained by the lake inland and the Baltic Sea on the other side, so it only grows north and south. And because they're always thinking that the water is a barrier, and I'm saying, no, think differently about water. There are different ways of using water for transportation systems. So you will see something of that in the future. In the next 6 months or so, something interesting will come up.
I think we had another question here. If you could wait for the microphone to come round. There's two in this block. Thank you.
Hi, talking about like evolution versus revolution, and I mean, I think the biggest thing within architecture is getting both the client and the builder on board with even just really small changes in how to improve U values and Part L, and how you build your walls, down to clients going, oh no, it's not solid if it's not concrete frame. And how you actually get both the client and the builder on board with new innovation and new technology. It's probably for both of you in a way.
I'll launch on this one. If you look at some of the things that we despair of most as architects, the little tiny windows in cookie cutter houses out in the suburbs, things like not transitioning from concrete to timber where it may be appropriate. Look beyond clients' resistance and see what the building regulations say, or see what the insurance industry says, or see what there are often resistances to change. They don't just come in the obvious thing that's staring you in the face, like the builder maybe doesn't want to do it or isn't familiar with it. There are often a number of resistances, and often to make change, and again, I'll champion incremental change, you need to go under the skin of what resistance is and make change in small ways, incrementally, to a lot of other things. And it could be that your client is resisting this from unfamiliarity, so your story to your client may be to familiarize them with it, but it could be that their insurance rates will triple or something like that. So search for the point of resistance. Why does the contractor not want to do it? Well, we like to disparage our contractors, but maybe they have a supply chain problem, or maybe they don't have trained labor. You have to interrogate where the resistance comes from, and you won't solve all those problems in one go, but you may make a little bit of a change in one job that can help change the industry more generally.
Well, you see, I look on. We do all of those things all the time. We develop our buildings, we use technology in developing our buildings, we talk to the clients a great deal, and that's absolutely fine. That's not my job. My job is thinking about the future, what the future can be, and that is something that is potentially very different from what it is today. And that's where essentially I come under marketing. So this means that we can attract clients who say, well, look, what you're doing looks really cool, but by the way, we want a building. Well, we do buildings, very advanced buildings. The Edge is a very good example. Bishopsgate 22 Bishopsgate is a very good example. We already incorporate most of these advanced technologies, but I want us to think further.
I think we've got another question here and another one at the front.
Well, I guess it's Lars, but probably both of you. The decision to put the third runway at Heathrow as opposed to the Thames estuary, I mean, somebody suggested that Heathrow would be a wonderful place to expand London. What would be your opinion of
Well, it's one of the few areas where I agree with Boris. I disagree with Boris on pretty well everything else, but Boris Island was a sensible approach. That would have made a lot of sense. Also because it would not just been serving London, it would have been serving northern France as well. And that would have been a big thing forward. And that, I think, is the problem of politics, particularly in the developed world. People hold back, whereas in the developing world, they are actually prepared to be quite radical. And I think, the West in general is going to have a problem if it's not prepared to think as radically as other people are.
I'm not going to weigh in on this one, actually.
Thank you. It's a question for Lars. Does your research bring direct revenue into POP?
Absolutely not a penny. What it does do, it's at the end of the day, it's a marketing tool. It's saying, look, we're doing interesting stuff. Come and see us, and then actually see what we do for real. Because for real, we are actually using a lot of very advanced technology. So, we designed Sky's headquarters, and to do that and to show it to the client, we had a virtual reality model so they could walk around in the building before it was built. So, all of these things we do all the time. But, we need to think more about what can we do with this stuff that's coming down the line. How do you coexist with robots? Are you going to learn to love them or hate them? And if you're going to learn to love them, how are you going to go about doing that?
Or to go back to one of my diagrams, what PLP is doing with this as a marketing tool, it's getting recognized by clients as potentially something that may be of value on their project. And that's going to resonate with some clients who then consider you guys for a project because of that. Not for the specific thing that they're advocating, but these are people we should talk to. So you get on the list that way.
Exactly. You've got it in one. You've got it in one.
Do we have any final questions? Well, if we could just thank Helen and Lars, our final two speakers, before I sum up. So I'm going to attempt to sum up what we've heard this afternoon. And really, what leadership is based on what we've heard this afternoon. I think firstly, leadership's really about doing things consciously and therefore doing things differently. And that may be, as Cameron said, breaking the rules when necessary, taking the road less travelled, or stepping out of your comfort zone. And we've just heard from Lars, it almost certainly is going to be about pushing at the boundaries of disruptive innovation. And leadership's also about applying the rigour of design thinking to other aspects of practice. So whether that's looking at how you build in social innovation to your business model, or how you manage your financial processes, or even how you bid and win work. And finally, I think we've heard that leadership really requires a much deeper understanding of what makes you tick, and also what makes the people you work with tick, whether they're your teammates or whether they're your clients, to really build that kind of positive project team that is essential for good project outcomes. And coming back to the words of both Ben and Cameron when we started this afternoon, as leaders in architecture, if you don't show up and step up, somebody else will do it instead. Thank you. So finally, we've got our drinks reception this evening. So please do, after this session, pop next door to 76 Portland Place, where we've got drinks this evening to sort of celebrate the end of this 2019 programme. And I'd really like to thank our sponsors again, Taylor Maxwell and Forticrete, for making this possible. Thank you very much.